Good evening and welcome back to the Joust for another season. That was very loud, but I'm very excited, Liam. I know it nearly blew your ears off.
You want to know about excitement, Nagy? Let me tell you a little story to start the Joust. Every day when I drive into work, it's a hell of a commute. I drive from Bolton Point all the way into town, into King Street. And, you know, when you're going down Scenic Drive, it's bush and there's a drop-off and it's very thick, very thick, lustrous bush. But there's a slight break in the trees. And just about 3 kilometres down the way, exactly framed between those trees, you know what you can see?
What can you
see? You can see Marathon Stadium. And every day since the season ended, I've driven down there. I've driven past on my way to work, and I've blown 3 kisses to the stadium. And my fiance, she started looking at me funny when I first did it, but she quickly grew on the tradition, more so that I wouldn't stop when she told me to. And it's just been so exciting, and I think this season is going to be blessed with luck because of my little kisses that I've been blowing to the stadium for the last 3 months.
I'm not sure if it's going to be blessed with luck, but it's definitely going to be interesting, Liam, and it's going to be very interesting sitting down with you every week. Once again, I'm so happy to be back. But Liam, if we look around us, we notice that we're no longer in the garage.
No.
We've moved up from the garage. We're now in more of a
workshop, I suppose.
Workshop, yes. You know, this is our workshop.
Yes, where we ply our trade.
It doesn't feel the same, but it's sort of like when you first move into like a house for the first time and you spend the first night and nothing's really set up, or you know what I mean? Like
you get to get takeaway because you rarely get takeaway, but none of the plates are set up and you don't know if the oven works properly and the fridge isn't set up, so you've got no food.
It's always the thing with moving, you know, you get everything moved and you think, thank God it's finished. But that's only the beginning because you got to unpack everything.
It's a never-ending cycle. And then you get to have a picnic in the living room.
Yeah, because everyone's sitting in the...
I think it was the first time I had KFC was when we moved to Sawtell. We had a picnic in the living room.
We better get on to this bloody football, Liam, otherwise we're going to be talking for hours. So we kicked off with the first trial. Now we're 2 trials in. The first trial was against the Dragons. Liam, what was the score against the Dragons?
The score against the Dragons, I don't recall. I think it was 16 points to 14.
Yeah. No, something to 10.
16 to 10.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, 3 tries to 2 tries. I didn't think that was very indicative of the way the game was played. I think in the first half, when each team had their strongest sides on, I think the Knights definitely had the ascendancy, and it was only really when the reserve graders came in the second half that St. George kind of wrestled that back off us. How did you see it, Nagy?
Yeah, well, it was a very traditional trial in the sense that we did start the game with a full-strength side, and then, at that 40-minute mark, we just pulled them all off. And you know, we had the reserve graders out there. We used the likes of the people that maybe, not going to get a first-grade run and give them a bit of a try. Like, and it's a trial in its true sense. Like, we had the large bench, and it seemed like it was how a trial should go. And we got some points on the board, and I was reasonably happy with that. But then the Dragons put a lot on us in the second half, but and we didn't keep up.
But look, I've taken some detailed notes, Nagy, as has been my want, as I've really missed doing this throughout the year, where I watch a game of football I analyse it.
You still take notes, Liam.
I did. In the off-season, I actually recorded all the Knights wins. They had one of those club days on Fox where they played all the Knights wins, and I watched them all back, and I did find myself taking a few notes here and there. But these notes that I took from this game, now, we got some very good go-forward from our starting forward pack. Now, this is not something, Nagy, that we're used to as Knights fans over the last few years. And it was not only the go forward from our starting props and second rowers, but it was continued when our reserves came on, when the bench forwards came on and made an impact. So that was a real positive. That front row rotation are looking like they can do a lot of damage between Clemmer, Gavitt, Safidi coming on. Even Glasby's
Clemmer and
Gavitt.
Gavay.
Jay Gavay.
Jay Gavay.
Does that sound like a Seinfeld name?
Gavitt.
Jay Gavay? It's a guy named Jay Gavay?
It's Gavitt just sounds so final. I don't know. There's a certain...
Yeah, true.
It just sort of... Anyway, sorry.
All right, sorry, Jimmy. We don't know the exact pronunciation, but we're going with Gavay because we like it. We like it. There were the front row rotations looking probably the strongest the Knights have had in, 5 to 10 years.
And the biggest.
Which is quite good. This one's a very simple point. Pong and a Fitzgibbon. That try that Lockie Fitz scored, we're going to be seeing that all year down that left side. It was just gorgeous. In defence as well, I thought the Knights really muscled up in defence again in a way we haven't seen in a long time. They were getting numbers in the tackle, but there was sting in the tackle. There was a bit of hurt in the tackle and restricting the post-contact meters, except against Corbin Sims. For some reason, Corbin Sims was just running rampant. And I like that the Knights have stuck to a similar attacking shape that they were using last year, where it's very much running along the tram line so you can have a very, very wide open side and a narrow blind side to exploit. It seems to be the case that Brownie's going to persevere with that, which I really like, because I think that'll give Kalen Ponga the most room to move, and it'll also give those wide-running second rowers and centres a much more widely dispersed defensive line to attack. So I really like the way that's shaping up.
Now, Kalen to 6, Liam.
Kalen to 6.
This is everyone's, it happened in the Maori Indigenous game, and, I think there was some moments of brilliance from Kalen, but everyone else just said, well, it may as well just throw him in the bin now. Trade him in. He's not worth his money, and he's useless. He's not going to be at 6, and he's not going to be at 1.
Well, what I would say to those people is that don't think like that. Be positive. Positivity is so much more fun.
Yeah.
And look, the Maori trial game he was playing behind a beaten forward pack in a side that he'd been with for 5 minutes. You can't take anything out of that. The 2 trial games, he's shown a few sparks. He has shown there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But again, this is a very new positional change for him. I say, give him time.
Yeah,
I reckon.
I think it's the only way.
He's the kind of player you put any number on his back. You could trot him out there in the front row with Clemmer, and he would somehow still come close to winning the Dally M. So, what I would say to those Knights fans is just be patient, give him time. If by round 6 it's gone to hell, then we'll put him back. And you know what? There's still time. He can still go back to fullback.
Now, we played a second trial in Maitland, Liam. You and I were there. It was the first game of football for the season that we witnessed firsthand.
The land of mates.
Newcastle's backyard. And it was a great day out of Maitland. It was 400 degrees. No, it was only about 30, but you and I have very pale skin.
We do. I put on 4 layers of sunscreen and still copped a burn. Yeah. The Irish never should have come to this country, Nagy.
They made a terrible mistake. They bypassed all these countries that would have been much better. Anyway.
That's it, Scandinavia.
Beautiful.
I mean, we wouldn't have had rugby league, but still.
We'd be happy.
Yeah.
It was such a beautiful game out there, except for the result. The result left it down.
On-field was horrifying.
Reserve grade played well against the Newtown Jets.
Reserve grade were great, actually. I was very positively buoyed by reserve grade. A couple of the young guns looked very strong.
Yeah.
And actually, a couple of the young guns looked quite strong against St. George, even though they were the weaker of the 2 sides that were trotted out. But yeah, players like Phoenix Crossland, Tex Hoy looks really good at fullback.
Good, yeah.
Stafford Toa also actually scored the Knights' only try in the first grade game.
Yeah,
but yeah, the reserve grade side looked very strong.
I liked how there was players that played in the reserve grade side and they go, get out there for first grade as well.
That's it. It's a proper reserve grade. Yeah. You play your actual reserves. I loved that.
Yeah, no,
loved it.
It was very good. But where did it all go wrong?
Bit of everywhere, Nagy. It went wrong all over the park. There was just errors and penalties galore. From Danny Levi knock on at the base of the scrum, 10 metres out to Sione, 10 metres out from their own line in defence. To a Sione knock on, I think about 5 metres out from the Sharks line. Everywhere in between, there was errors, there was penalties. The Knights just couldn't put anything together at all. I don't think we saw kind of 2 consecutive sets of 6 from the Knights. It was just impossible to get anything going at all.
They struggled to build pressure, and there was a few good kicks in by Pearce, and we put them down their end and sort of kept them up their end to put a sort of a field finder kick, and rather than that's not the expression, field finder. No. What's it called? Pathfinder.
As long as it lands on the ground, it's found the field.
A Nissan Pathfinder
kick.
Just try to get some field position back, but then we just couldn't build anything. We couldn't string anything together. Now, but Liam, I will say to you, that Sharks side that came out to play in this trial in Maitland would have to be the strongest trial side I've seen. I'd forgotten how strong the Sharks are.
It's easy to forget
the roster that they have. How didn't they win the comp last year, even without Sean Johnson?
And that's a very good question, Nagy.
But then now, between the players that they still have that played in their grand final now, over 2 seasons ago, and they've kept a lot of that talent, and then they've just added to it with more experience and talent. Like their 2 signings this year, being John Morris, the
coach.
John Morris is
but
the
Josh
coach.
Morris, the experienced utility. Oh, it's experienced outside back.
Yeah, and then you got Josh Dugan, Andrew Fafita, Paul Gallen. What's that other prop name? The big fella.
Matt Pryor.
Matt Pryor. They're all big fellas. But he's also played New South Wales Blues quite recently.
That's it. They've got a team absolutely stacked with representative and former representative players. It's a very strong side. But again, you just forget about the Sharks for some reason.
Yeah, they just seem to have, this just talent right across the board.
And they showed that muscle.
Moylan onto, they had Moylan over, and then if they got stuck on one side, they could just sort of crab across and find someone that's going to break the line, and hopefully that's the side that they will be playing through the season. That's the side we'll be playing in round one. More to come with that. But it's so we have to beat that side if we're going to be contenders. But I think for a side that like them, who was pretty much introducing one of the Morris twins and Sean Johnson, and the rest of the side was pretty much the side that they've had for years. Compared with us, where we're injecting a lot of new players in, a lot of new combinations, and then it being a trial, so you're having lots of players coming off and lots of new players coming on. And so it's, I think, 30-6 was disappointing, but it's a trial isn't necessarily about the wins. I think are you going to bring up Parramatta from last year?
I was about to bring up Parramatta from last year, which will be mentioned again in our out and abouts, which we've got for you this week. We'll bring that up again. But look, it was interesting going onto the various Facebook pages after and seeing the season all but written off by so many Knights fans on the back of one trial form, and it's just...
Look, the Clemmer signing with the Pearce and Ponga and everyone's playing, it's very exciting. It's right in Newcastle's backyard, the horticultural capital of Australia. Everything grows out there. The grass had to be mowed at half time. That's how... It's how rich we
were sitting
the
on
soil.
hay now.
Yeah, it's true. It's from all the wildlife out there, from the farmyard animals.
It's the hunter's food bowl.
Food bowl, that's what I was looking for.
It's like the Ukraine is to Europe. That's what Maitland is to the Hunter region.
It's disappointing to see your team going out there and getting beaten, but there's 26 rounds, Liam. There's 26 months worth of football coming up.
Isn't that an exciting prospect?
It is very exciting, but it's a war of attrition out there. We're gonna take some time to really find our best football, and that's not to say gelling to win games. I expect us to win. In the first 5 rounds, I expect us to pick up some wins, but to play that team at our best, you have to expect it's going to be after you've played some minutes with the person inside of you.
And outside of you.
And outside of you.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way that I put that.
It's an interesting way. Liam, I like it though. It's very romantic.
Yeah, a little bit too romantic. Liam, if your predicted lineup for round 1, which is against the Sharks again.
Now, what I've gone through, actually, Nagy, I've gone through what I think will be the strongest 17 for the season. And what we'll do as we go through, I'll announce the player, and Nagy will say who will be in that position in round 1. So... And of course, this is somewhat educated, knowing what Brownie's going to do. We do get Brownie on the phone very regularly.
Yeah.
And so this is knowing certain decisions he might make and that we might agree or disagree with. But
sometimes he calls a little too much.
Brownie. Oh, yeah. But you just pretend you're going through a tunnel. So what I've got Connor Watson at fullback. I've got Edric Lee on one wing and Tautau Moga on that side in the centres.
Well, you would say that Tautau would probably not be there.
He won't be for round 1.
He'll be unavailable, so you're probably looking at Sione.
Yep, Sione will be there, as I believe Barry Tui's reported on. Good friend of the show, Barry Tui. Jesse Remian in the other centre position. Now, I was a bit worried. He didn't get very much ball at all during the trials. So look for him to get a fair bit more ball as the season opens up.
And the Indigenous Maori game, I was expecting him to do more. But, that might be, something to look at, a bit more of a target. Get Ramian the ball.
Yes, that should be the motto. That should be written on everyone's hands. They should write that on the match ball, in fact. SKD on the other wing. I think, again, a lot of people really underestimate how good SKD was for the Knights last year. And I will fight anyone who says he wasn't. So he'll be on the other wing. Halves, you've got obviously Pong and Mitchell Pearce. Oh, do we have an update on SKD's rolled ankle? Will he be right for round 1?
As far as I know, he was only just not making the trial. With the few weeks he has to recover, I'm sure.
Very good, very good. The starting front row, I think, will be David Clemmer and Jay Gavay with Danny Levi hooking until Slade Griffin gets back. Depending on Danny Levi's form, though, he did show a bit of pretty good stuff against the Dragons.
He was zippy early.
And, he could really kind of stamp his authority on that 9 and maybe give Slade a bit of a run for his money by the time he comes back.
You want that, yeah. I'd hope that's the case.
Yeah. In the second row, I've got Lockie Fitz and Sione, who obviously, as you mentioned, will be going back to the centres. And in his place in the second row, who would you have for round 1?
Look, Aiden Quera. Like,
Got to be Quera.
But yeah, but he's
one of the Knights' best.
But he's looking like he's going to be benched.
Which is strange because last season he was phenomenal. He was easily the best forward.
He's another year older though.
He is another year older.
Yeah.
But still, I think he's still got so much good football left in him.
Yeah.
And then I had Aiden Guerra at lock, but it seems to be the case that Brownie will be playing Timothy Glasby, undefeated Queensland Origin player, at lock there. Then the bench looks like it could well be Kurt Mann, Daniel Safidi. I've got Tim Glasby there, but that could be one of the smaller forwards Brownie likes to use, maybe James Buret.
Yeah.
And then Herman Essie, who Barry Tui's reporting has a bit of pressure on him to even retain his spot, which is interesting.
Very interesting.
Because again, I thought Herman was very, very good last year. He offered so much. He was one of our better forwards, probably after Guerra, our second best forward.
I think it's a Brownie PR movement. I think it's movement. Is that right? PR movement. Yeah.
PR, bow, movements, all movements, different types of movements.
Now it's all about trying to reinvigorate Herman Sesse's sort of stamp his authority. You give him saying like, mate, it's no guarantee that you're going to be in this side, and then you watch the fire burn. I think he's a player. He loves his hands on the ball. Herman Sesse. He's a guy that I think he's an important part of. He'll take the ball up just as hard if you're ahead by 20 points or you're behind by 20 points. And I think in the front row, it's really valuable.
Which we saw in the trial, actually. He came on quite strong in the second half when the Knights were already down by a hefty amount.
I think Brownie knows they're going to get the best out of him with a bit of pressure. I think he'll be chalk and cheese to the next person that tries to that'll be in this spot. I think he'll outperform Daniel Safidi. I think Daniel Safidi will take a little while to mould into the front row like he did last year. He'll get the best footy from him mid to late season. I feel.
Interesting.
This is just what I feel, Liam.
Because he has, they were reporting today that he's lost many kilos. He's in the best shape of his life.
Yeah.
He's ship shape, I think I was trying to say there. Shape up or ship out, Daniel. But no, I'm expecting a very large season from Daniel Safidi, as he is a large man. Everything he does is large.
Yeah, that's true. I never really like watch when they're like, he's put on 9 kilos of muscle. They always say muscle.
Yeah.
And then if they strip down, they're like, oh, he's much leaner. He's looking for game time. I'm like, I thought he had all this muscle on him. Surely that's effective. But yeah, they only talk nonsense.
Weight gain in football is always seen as a positive. Yeah, when our missus bring it up around us, they're furious.
We're not athletes, Liam.
No, true.
We managed to speak to a few of the Knights fans at the front of the gate of Maitland.
And a few Sharks fans, of course.
And a few Sharks fans
We're
as well.
nothing if not balanced.
So we're going to take a short break, and you can check out our Out and Abouts with the Joust.
Thank you. What's your name? Yeah, Mark. Okay, so we're good, Liam? So I got Mark here from the Sharks. 30 points to 6. How do you feel the game went for you boys?
Well, I thought the first half was really good. Sharks played good the first half, and we've got some good players for the Sharks now coming up. We've got some good halves. We've got Chad Townsend and
Sean Johnson.
Sean Johnson, yeah, come back from so the Sharks are the real deal this year. They got like last year, even this year's better. They've got better players, and it's just good to be a Sharks supporter.
That's a good time. Obviously, the Sharks had a bit of trouble in the last few weeks. It's good to see a win.
Yeah, yes, it's been a good pre-season for the Knights, for the Sharks, I mean, and I've seen a couple of good players. Paul Gallen, Wade Graham, and they had good games. And prior the forwards, the halves, Josh Dugan, and had a good game, and Andrew Gaffreda for Sharks.
Any standouts that you really liked this week?
Yeah, some new players.
Morris?
Josh Morris from the Canterbury Bulldogs.
Yep.
Yeah, he had a good game.
How do you think they hit out round 1 in 2 weeks' time? How do you think we're going to go?
Is that Newcastle?
That's Newcastle.
I think we'll do really good next couple of weeks. We've got a lot of Sharks supporters and that, so just it's been a really good game this game's been very good, and I'm going to come back next time, 2 weeks' time.
Thanks very much, Mark. Love your thoughts.
No, thank you very much.
All right, guys, we've got another Cronulla fan here. We've got James here, former Knights fan, aren't you, James?
Woo, yeah, well, yeah. That was only when Paul Harrigan used to play. So when Paul Harrigan left, Newcastle Knights was, well, what do you say, shit? So I said, well, do you want to give the reason I joined Newcastle, joined Cronulla? Sorry.
Absolutely, yeah, of course.
It's because, well, my cousins are from Cronulla. And at the time I thought, well, I had a grandfather who was also a South Sydney supporter. And I said, well, there's so many South Sydney supporters around that,
they're everywhere.
South Sydney supporter went, and there's not many Shark supporters. So I said, I'll become a Shark supporter. And I've never looked back.
Like to support the little guy. I like that. Yeah.
I've loved my team for 15, 16 years, and I'll never look back ever again. Never go back to Newcastle, never, because it's just the passion of the game. And they play so well. Paul Gallen is, the greatest player that ever lived. Well, except for Andrew Eddinghausen, of course.
Now, speaking of standouts, who were your standouts today in the blue, black, and white?
I would definitely say Moylan. Moylan did very, very well. He didn't score many tries, but he tried his best. I'd say Chad Townsend, great kicking, and Sean Johnston too. Yeah, Sean Johnston was...
Yeah, he looks like he's going to be a very good buy for you guys this year. Do you think he'll fit in nicely?
It's good. It'd be good if we also brought in... haven't got Brett Morris. It'd be good if we had Josh Morris, because then we can have the brothers together, and that way then it'd be just like what it was with the Bulldogs. So
yeah. Anyway, James, thank you very much for your time with us, mate. Much appreciated.
And go Sharkies! Sharkies forever.
Cheers. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the Joust, we've got some Newcastle royalty here. We're with the Knights Nanas, Wendy, and Joan. Now, we'll start with Wendy here. Sorry, mate. What was it, Jessie? I've forgotten Jessie. Not one of the Nanas, but clearly a part of the group. We'll start with Wendy. Now, Wendy, what happened today? What went wrong?
It's only a trial game. Last year, Parramatta beat us 70-something, and they got the wooden spoon.
So we think Sharks for last. I like that. Sharks coming last. You heard it here first.
Well, yeah, they could do. It's only not the season hasn't even started yet, so give them a chance.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to Wendy next again. Who are your standouts so far in the red and blue, Wendy?
I like Sione. He's playing well. Clemmer, I think he's playing well too. I think Ponga's playing well, but I think he's a target, unfortunately.
But I will say, as a Knights fan, it's good to have someone worth targeting. Now, Joan, we've just mentioned David Clemmer. Hair or no hair? What do you think?
Oh, hair, I think, yeah. No,
he looks tougher.
No hair? So we got 2 for no hair, 1 for hair. Jesse, what do you reckon?
Yeah, hair.
Got to be hair. All right, we're split down the middle. I'm going to be the deciding vote. I reckon no hair because he looks absolutely terrifying. But I like what we've heard here from the Knights Nanas, Cronulla Sharks to finish last in 2019. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Cheers.
We're here with a true blue Knights fan, Nathan Pickard. Now, mate, didn't go how we thought it would. Where did it all go wrong?
Pretty much everything went wrong. We just didn't turn up. No good.
Who really let you down? Who did you think this week? Were you excited to see him in the red and blue, and it was a bit of a lead balloon?
We're excited to see him. Just didn't turn out the way we wanted. Ponga played all right. Watson had a bit of a shocker. Probably the best way to say it. Yeah.
Where did the Sharks beat us? Where do you think who ran all over us?
Numbers 1 to 27, basically just. We just didn't have it. Giving the ball away, stupid penalties.
2 weeks from now, we're playing the Sharks again at home. What do you think the result's going to be then?
I think it'll be a lot closer. I think it'll be, I don't want to say a Sharks victory, but I think they might just pip us.
Let's hope not. I was a little bit disappointed with the result as well, but hopefully, a lot of players coming into the side. Hopefully, there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Do you see a bit of light even at the start of the tunnel? Can you see the tunnel?
I can see the tunnel, all 4 eyes. I think it's going to take a good 2, 3, maybe 6 rounds to get us gelling really well, and after that, I think we might see some good form.
Ponga at 6, you like it?
I'm not convinced yet. I prefer him at fullback, but we'll see how it plays. Nathan Brown knows what's going on, so trust in Brownie.
Fingers crossed for a good result in 2 weeks. Thanks, mate.
And welcome back to the second half of the Joust. Now, it was so nice catching up with those Knights Nanas, Liam.
Oh, it was incredible. They were absolutely wonderful. And,
It was the 2 Wendy's.
The 2 Wendy's and Joan, and, just jumped at the chance to come on the show. So, ladies, thank you very much. We really enjoyed having a chat with you, and good to hear from some Sharks fans as well. Obviously, they had a lot to crow about.
Yeah.
But, it's good to get both sides of the story. And, look, Nanas, we'd love to have you on.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. We're going to be at as many Knights games as we can. So please, if you see us after the game or during the game, come over and have a chat and see if you can. We'll pop you on at half time.
We're very chatty people.
For our out and abouts with the Joust. Now, Liam, some points, you get quite angry at certain things in life, and you would talk about them quite passionately, almost like you were taking them personally.
Yes, I'm a seething ball of rage at times, Nagy. You want to know what I'm taking personally this week, Nagy?
I do. Please.
I'm taking personally the demise of the footy show. Now, while I love the demise of the footy show because it means people will watch our show instead, I still think what we're seeing is a painful and, really just, it's something that had such a fire burning for so long, and it's just died and became embers and died a very slow and painful death. And when you love something, you don't want to see it go out in that manner. I would have loved to have seen the footy show go out 5 years ago when it was still not even 5 years ago. It was the decline had already begun. It just infuriates me the way Channel 9 treated it as the heart and soul of the show slowly got torn out, and they replaced it with, people who either weren't suited to it, didn't do a good job of it, or just sucked in general. And I took the demise of the footy show very personally because it formed so much of my youth. It informed me about football, which it hasn't done for a number of years. It informed my comedy sensibilities.
Yeah.
It basically taught me everything I know about how I want to enjoy football and talk about football and discuss football, and to see the way it was treated in the last few years and in the lead up to its death, I'm taking that personally. But the other thing I'm taking personally about that is the criticisms that have been levelled at Erin Molan particularly. Now, I'm not Erin's biggest fan. I will admit that. I think she does quite a good job, but I think it's quite unfair that a lot of people have placed the blame of the demise of the footy show on her shoulders. By the time she came in, it was already sinking. It was on its way down.
Yeah.
And I think it's just been absolutely horrible the way that some people have spoken about her as kind of the death of the footy show. I'd argue that, Slater was worse for it. I think he was a terrible host. He was not very good at all.
Can we just look at that for a second when there was that Michael Slater, known Australian cricketer, came onto the footy show and was there for a year?
The football show.
And he hosted it.
Yes, a cricket man hosting the football show, and the slow kind of replacement of Fatty and the way that they treated Fatty and just eventually gave him, the boot.
The year they got rid of Chief was the one that I was like, why? I thought Chief had so much to offer because it was just a different perspective. They all seemed like guys that weren't suited to television, and that's what made it good.
It worked. That's it. When you get four people in a room that aren't suited to television, it rarely works. But for those four, at the time when you had Sterlo, Matty, Chief, and Fatty running it, that was just unmissable television.
Yeah.
And so Channel 9, I'm taking it personally that you have destroyed something that was such a part of our youth.
Yeah.
It was so ingrained in the culture of rugby league, and it was just something beautiful. You had something beautiful, and you ruined it.
Well, it's a new year, Liam, and there's been
Sorry, Channel 9, if you do want to pick up the Joust, though, we will talk. We will chat.
We'll sit down with you. But no, Liam, there's lots of new shows coming to Channel 9.
Yes, Nagy, do you know what's on the schedule this coming year?
I can say now that Daryl Summers will be returning to 9.
Daryl Summers is returning to 9. What will Daryl be doing this season on 9?
Well, Daryl Summers will be touring with the Australian Youth Percussion Group in preparation for the Commonwealth Games.
Oh, and what are they calling this brand new television show?
Summers Drummers.
Summers Drummers, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Summers Drummers will be coming to our screens this winter.
9:30 Thursdays. Tune in for Summers Drummers.
Replacing the footy show. How do you replace the irreplaceable? With Daryl Summers.
Now, Liam, it's time for 6 of the best.
You're 6 of the best.
Six of the best, Liam. For us to kick off the season, obviously it's a bit of a introspective on looking on the coaches of these NRL teams, 16 of them. And I think we named 6 of them that are under a little bit of pressure. Let's put a little fire underneath them. Who do you think is the coaches most under pressure this year?
Look, I'm going to start with our very own Nathan Brown. I think he's, had the keys to the place the last few years. He's had his way in the rebuild, and I think personally he's done a phenomenal job so far.
You make it sound like he lives there.
He may well do. I don't know. I haven't been to his house. He hasn't answered my letters, so they must be going to the wrong address. So he may well live there. But, he hasn't had much pressure put on him because I think everyone realised the enormity of the task that he was attempting in the rebuild. But this year, with his open-ended performance-based contract, the pressure really is on him to perform. And I think if the Knights don't make the 8, Phil Gardner and West might be sitting down and having some tough decisions with Nathan Brown. But, like I said, he's done a phenomenal job so far to get the Knights the roster that he has now and the setup that they have now. And I think this year, a lot hinges on this year for Nathan Brown personally, but I believe in Brownie. As we've always said on this show, we believe in Brownie.
Yeah. 100% behind Nathan Brown.
We're on the Brownie bandwagon, but I still think that he will be under a bit of pressure this year.
Now, Knights, the coaches are sort of been chopped and changed and dropped like flies, and I think my first coach I think's under a lot of pressure is Sticky Ricky.
Sticky Ricky?
Down in Canberra. He's got one of the worst win-loss records over the last few years. Canberra has only made the finals one time in his tenure down there.
And that's it. Like, he's so rusted on. If he's never under pressure before, why now, Nagy?
Well, I just feel like, with that really strong 2016, I think they had, 2017.
They did 16. They finished second and made it to the preliminary final.
Yeah.
Either side of, I think both years, either side of that, they finished 10th.
And they can't really hang on to that for too much longer. So he needs to perform this year. And his squad, you can arguably say it's not as strong as it was last year. So, and now he had a massive injury to the hooker. I've forgotten his name.
Josh Hodgson.
And now he's got another injury for a similar length of time to Rapana.
Jordan Rapana.
Yeah, Rapana.
Geordie Raps.
Geordie Raps, yeah. I always get the Rapana in the wrong sort of...
Well, it's because they changed it. Remember, it was
Rapana.
It was Rapana, and then it was Rapana, and now it's a Rapana. So it's a toughie. We're sorry, Jordan. Jordan listens to the show, obviously trying to get all the intel he can on the Knights. So, Jordan, if you want to correct us on that one, just send a message to... Is Karen back?
Karen should be back in the office.
Karen should be back in the office.
Yeah,
so just send a fax to Karen.
Who else have we got for under pressure coaches?
I think it's got to be Brad Arthur. Now, when Brad Arthur went to the Eels, he was faced with another rebuild, and I think it was his first year where he had those salary cap issues, and they almost made the 8 despite the salary cap. And then they had that great year in 17 where they came to within one game of the grand final. But then with what happened last year, I think the blowtorch is really going to be under him to get that side really turned around, because there hasn't been too many big signings. They've got Blake Ferguson, but they've...
That's about all. Yeah.
They've got Junior Paulo from Canberra to provide a bit of starch up front, but I think Brad Arthur's going to have a lot of pressure on him.
I was going to say retired. No, he quit today. He quit today. So those sorts of things will put a strain on a head coach, because now he's the only one that people will look to. So I think John Morris is under a lot of pressure. For yourself, Liam?
I've got Ivan Cleary next as well. Now, we all watched the Ivan Cleary, West Tigers, Penrith Panthers situation pan out through the season last year, and it was such a mess and it was such a debacle. And for a coach that, again, he's very much a rebuilding coach. He doesn't have a phenomenal win record.
Yeah.
And for him to be built up with such a hype, Penrith went so hard to get him. I think the pressure's really on him. He's got a lot of talent there. Like, he's got mountains of talent there at the foot of the mountains. And I think if the Panthers don't perform, the Panthers fans are going to be baying for blood. Seeing what their club went through last year, they'll be expecting immediate performance, I think. They'll be expecting really very big things. And, with the whole club essentially being restructured around Ivan and Nathan Cleary, if that relationship doesn't play out, I think that club could be in a whole lot of trouble. So a lot of pressure on Ivan.
You'd think a lot of pressure is going to be on Gus too, because they pulled so many strings to get Ivan back to the club. And if it doesn't work out, who's at fault there? So I think you could probably see a bit of a shake-up with Gus, and then that will filter down to the coach if you get a new director of football with a different idea of how that club should be run. I agree with Ivan Cleary, so I'll finish with the last one.
Yeah, we got for number 6.
Number 6, Paul Green.
Greenie.
Well, this is only because now he had a lackluster last year because, obviously Jonathan Thurston's last year didn't pan out like everyone thought it would. They made the grand final the year before with so you had a better side last year that they couldn't get things working, and it was a bit odd. At the end of the year, they seemed to get the wheels moving again, but it was too little too late. Now they're without Thurston. Barber's just dropped out of their side. But I think also, like, that whole coaching staff, Cowboys administration, their choices of having Thurston leave, and you had a player like Ponga in that system and has let them go. So I think it's a bit for the sake of Lachlan Coote, who's now no longer with the side either, and his hamstrings were all dodgy by the end of it. So I think it's more on the player management side. And now that they've gone for Barber and lost Barber almost immediately, so I feel that it's Paul Green's under a host of pressure that he's probably not used to, even though he's been in 2 grand finals in the last 5 years. So yeah.
So some coaches performing and under pressure for that reason. Some coaches not performing under pressure for that reason. Nagy, would it be safe to say that every coach is under pressure all the time?
Yeah. Well, who would want to be an NRL coach? Just because it's such a fickle business. Of
Isn't
like,
it fickle?
You'd have to be making the finals consistently, and then if you're making the finals consistently, everyone's expectations higher, and it's why haven't we won a grand final?
Plus, there's literally only 16 jobs in the country, so you've got a lot of people to contend with, I would imagine.
Yeah, some people get a few bites of the cherry, like the Jason Taylors of the world, and then continue to fail. So he's just got assistant coach written all over him, Jason Taylor, doesn't he? Like the poor bloke. But hasn't had a good run as a head coach since Parramatta back in 08, I think it was.
09.
Thank you. Yeah, when they had that dream run. Now, Liam, I think it is time again. Can you check the time? Because I think it's time.
You know what time it is.
I think it's time for the news.
I forgot to look at the camera.
That's right.
My apologies. It's been a long while, Jousters. It's been a long, long while.
First week back.
First week back. We're blowing out a few cobwebs around here. Now, Nagy.
Yeah.
This off-season has arguably been the worst off-season, rather, in recent memory, maybe in NRL history. And it's all been terrible news, so let's not cover that. Let's avoid it entirely. The one piece of news that I do want to cover...
I think it's been covered. I think
it's been covered. It's been done.
Every night I went home and I watched the news, it was something else about to have a beloved game that was just, pushing it further and further into the dirt. So we're not going to do that here.
We don't want to be negative Nancy's here at the Joust, so we'll leave that for other people to discuss. But there is one thing that we do want to discuss, and Nagy, it's the new policy that has been brought in by the ARL Commission that is in regard to these player misbehaviours. Now, it's the policy of the no-fault stand-down. And now this has raised the ire of basically everyone on both sides of the argument. But what I can get from it very basically is that a player who has committed a crime, which contains within the crime a maximum sentence of 11 years, will be stood down indefinitely until the court has made their decision. Now, they will be stood down under no fault clause, which means there is no assumption of guilt or innocence. And this has raised the ire of everyone because people are saying, well, no, if they're being stood down, they're to be presumed guilty. And well, no, they're being stood down because they're about to face a court hearing and they're going to be stood down regardless. It doesn't matter if they're presumed guilty or presumed innocent. This is a no-fault clause.
Still letting the courts go through their system, and their due process, and they're not being sacked from their club.
No, not at all. They will be stood down on full pay. I believe they can still maybe train with the club. I didn't do much research into this, Nagy. But anyway, it just seems like it's really raised the ire of a lot of people. But it's a move that the NRL had to make. If they hadn't made the decision, they'd be damned by half the population. But they did make the decision. Now they're damned by the other half of the population.
It's a gamble. It's a gamble. And the no-fault clause, the stand-down, just means that, the severity of the crimes is the reason that they fall before the court. There's no secret behind the severity of the crimes. And if they're found guilty and then they suddenly go from playing 1 week to jail, it's just like, you've got leave with pay indefinitely.
Which I would like to think in any other place of employment, if you've got a court case coming up, you're going to be given leave with pay so that you can arrange yourself in a manner that you'll be able to present yourself to the court and give that your full attention. I think, I believe is the intention of the whole policy. It's that the entire focus of that player and of that player's management and legal team can be put towards the case. So if anything, it almost helps the player because it allows them, if they, plead their innocence, it allows them to strengthen their case. It allows them to focus only on that. And it also takes away the fact that they'll be playing football very distracted. They'll be playing football with a dark cloud hanging over their head.
And you've got to remember, even if these players are innocent of any crime whatsoever and they're still being charged with it by some sort of circumstance outside of their control, you have to remember that this game is played in front of tens of thousands of people at a time. If you're at a Knights game, if you're at a Roosters game, it's sometimes played
tens of hundreds,
tens of people at a time.
People
are in the crowd. Now, those people are typically, judge, jury, and executioner. When it comes to, we saw Matt Lodge getting booed viciously, mercilessly, and he was found, not guilty of a crime in the end, or was he found guilty?
Well, no,
there was some sort of thing. Anyway, he was allowed to play, but he's come out and said how much it affected him. And you got to think these are young guys, so like you take them out of that sphere, and you don't let the crowd bark their opinions around the crime to them until it's all settled in court. And then if they're If they're found innocent, welcome back to the game, clean hands. So I'm 100% behind it.
Now, a lot of people have said that this decision is bowing to the court of public opinion, but I think it kind of straddles a bit of both. You're bowing to the court of public opinion because, yes, a player may have misbehaved and will be stood down, but you're also playing against the court of public opinion, whereby a lot of the public is saying, well, no, they should play until the very moment they're locked up in jail.
Yeah.
I think that's the...
We can't have that anymore. This off-season has shown that we can't just do nothing and stand by these people if the severity of the crime. So 11 years is a pretty high standard to set.
That's it. I saw the list of crimes that carry a maximum of 11 years, and it's pretty bad stuff. It's not good stuff you're facing down the barrel.
If anyone's thinking about the player in their team that, I wish they wasn't stand down, just think how many times have you been accused of a crime that has 11-year sentence? You know what I mean? It's not like it's an everyday thing. It's not a speeding ticket.
That's it. It's not going 65 in a 60 when you're in a rush home from work.
Yeah, it's not even getting done low range the next day. Like, when you thought, oh, look, I thought I'd be fine because I've been home for 10 hours, and turns out that, Mark's bucks the night before was really a big one. So
they didn't find Mark for 3 days, did they?
Mark's dead. So I think they had to act, and I think at the moment, look, they've as far as I can see, I think I agree with the decision, and we'll just see how it pans out.
Liam, it's a toughie either way.
It is. Look, Liam, round 1 is on Friday night.
Friday night, the 15th of March, not this coming Friday for you who will be listening to the show between Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah.
But the following one. For those who will be listening to the show after Friday, it will be the next Friday for you. So work that out.
It's hard because you'll be watching it in the future. Now, Liam, score prediction for the game against the Sharks?
Oh, look, this is a toughie because the Sharks just have our number over the last few years. But, however, I think those numbers are going to change. I think they're going to come up Knights. And I'm thinking it's going to be a fairly high-scoring affair. I'm going to go with the Newcastle Knights winning the match 24 points to 20.
Okay, I think they're going to lose 24 points to 14.
Oh, all right. You heard it here first, fans.
I don't want them to lose, but I just think that that's the way it's going to go.
It's the Sharks, though. I know it's a toughie. Do you have, Nagy, a ladder prediction? Because avid listeners of the show will remember that I believe last year we said we'd finish somewhere between 9th and 12th. We sat very neatly in there at 11th. So I thank you, fans. I just heard of a light round of applause from our listeners. So, Nagy, where do you think we're going to finish this year?
Look, I think we're going to finish 5th. I think that's we got 5th written all over us. And if we can spend any time in the middle of the season in the top 4, it'll be fantastic. But I think we're going to not only make the 8, but put a bit of a dent in there and show that we're just as good as any top 8 side.
I'm going down a very similar route to yourself, Nagy, but I'm going to go one spot lower. I think we're going to finish in 6th position, but hell, just making the 8, it will be incredible. If we make the 8, we'll burn this city to the ground. There won't be a thing left if we make the 8.
Yeah, there'll be riots. It's going to be fantastic. It's been fantastic talking with you once again, Liam. I look forward to doing it all season. Please join us next week. If you like us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all those social pipes.
Every single pipe, Nagy.
It's been fantastic, guys. And a little bit of a welcome back to us, Liam. Welcome back to you.
And welcome back to you.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.